for some of you. I know this was kind of initially billed as, for new promoters, new scorers. I mean, it's a good review for everybody. Just as a question, if you could put it in the chat, if there is anyone here that is like a first year role, either promoting, scoring, using my race pass, whatever, like feel free to put that in the chat and what track you're with, so that if we do need to follow up with anything, please, please ask away. Let me share my screen here. I think the recording has started. Let me share my screen here and we can go ahead and get started. First off, before I really start, do I have Callie here as well or no?
I'm here.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. Cool. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to skip over here that Dakota kind of covered the other day, right? With season management, with fantasy racing, with registrations and those kinds of things. I'm going to sort of skip over that, and I'm really just focusing on the race management aspect, right? What happens at the racetrack, whether that's at the back gate, at the tower, whatever. How do I do entries? How do I share this information to my timing system? How do I do points and payouts? Those types of things. So, we'll just jump through here. The first thing that you see, and I'm actually going to do this on tomorrow's event. The first thing that you see is the setup tab. So in setup, there is basically two things that are really going to be important for you, and a couple of other options that we'll go through as well. The first thing that you'll see is the pill draw options. Dakota talked about this a little bit the other day. There's not a whole lot of difference between them. There's some auto draw options. There's some manual entry options. The default is the at check-in auto draw when you find a driver. It's this top one. That's what I use because it makes it a one-step process for me. As I search for the driver, a pill number comes up also. Now, we talked the other day about how maybe, there's some questions from drivers about the legitimacy of that. They're unfounded. But because of that, some of you like to use the auto draw before you check in, before driver selection. In the end, it's the same 1 through 100 random search. If your drivers feel better about doing it that way, great. If you want to make it a one-step process for yourself, great. If you want to have poker chips or lotto balls and do manual entry, that's fine too. There's just different options, different ways of going about it. Transponder options, pretty self-explanatory as well, right? Do you use transponders? If so, do you allow rentals? Pretty simple stuff there. I don't know if this applies to anybody here, but I've gotten way more tracks this year for some reason that have all the transponders in-house and the drivers don't have any of them. If that's you, it's probably best to just use transponders, no rentals, because if everyone's a rental, then the rental checkbox doesn't really matter, right? Because you're chasing everyone down. So I don't know. I don't know if that affects anybody here. I don't love that, but I've had a lot of racetracks this year for whatever reason that are telling me that's what they're doing. Other options in here. One, as it affects the pill draw. There is a max pill and a rebase pill option. Max pill is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a range of pills from 1 to, in this case, 100, but whatever number you want to put in here that are eligible for your draw, right? Could be 75, could be 50. I've seen this go a lot of ways. The default is 100. Rebase pill requires some explanation here. This is basically the new low pill number. So if you have a bunch of drivers complaining about, I always get a high pill number, whatever. One, there's a report that you can use at the end of the year that shows everybody's average pill draw, and usually the people that complain about always having a high number don't always have a high number. But I'm mean to drivers. I apologize for that. The rebase pill is a new low. So the way that this works is if you do the auto draw, give everybody a pill number as they check in. What I see some tracks do and how this is primarily used is at the driver's meeting, like somebody will go and pull one poker chip out of the 100 or out of the 50 or whatever your pill range is, and then that one becomes the new low number. So like in essence, if at the driver's meeting somebody pulls out a 76, 76 becomes the new 1, and then it just goes after that from 77 to 100 and then from 1 to 75. So if you, again, want to mix up how this pill draw works a little bit more, you can use this rebase pill option And after everybody's checked in, you can come in here and you can say my rebase pill was a 44 and save. And now 44 will become the new 1. So just another way for that to be handled. The other things that are in here are somewhat new. This race options dropdown is new, brand new. The default number of competitors per row, I don't see any reason for anyone to change that away from 2. That just means that all your races outside of qualifying will always show an order of 2 per row. We put this in here because, you know, really for a lot of sports car racing stuff that we do, everybody's always single file. There's a couple of instances where the 3's been used, one for lawnmower racing, interestingly. Yeah, just a new, so I don't foresee you guys really ever touching that. And then the required registration field has existed here for, I think, 2 years now. It's used a lot by series. Some tracks use this as well. But if you require your drivers to register, like if there's some kind of license or membership that they have to purchase to be eligible for points, this required registration will, you can basically pick the registration that you want to use, and then it works like a license check. If the drivers have filled in that registration, at the end of the night, you can apply points to only registered drivers, things like that. So I think it's pretty exciting. It's being used by more series than tracks, which I can see why. Like a lot of series actually do have a membership fee, but it's just another option there for you. I'm going to skip the MRP Live tab for now. We'll come back to that, but I'm going to jump ahead to the entry screen. The entry screen is where I'm putting the drivers into the race night entry list. In some parts of the country, this is referred to as registrations. In my race pass, registrations is in season management. It's a way of gathering driver information, either before the season or before an event. Entries is what we call at-bat gate driver check-in to the event, right? Now, because I call it at-bat gate, that doesn't mean that you can't do entries in advance. For some major events where you're getting your entries early, it's kind of fun to be able to put the information into My Race Pass and kind of build that up over the course of the week. In Australia, that's mandatory. They put in their entries Monday or Tuesday. During COVID, there was entries in earlier. More and more people are doing these entries, especially for like marquee events. They start to put in entries during the week, but 90% of the time it's at the back gate. Driver shows up to the racetrack. This is you checking them in. There's a couple of ways to find a driver. I'll start with the tray on the left-hand side of the screen. This is going to be a list of drivers who have raced with you before or have ever filled in a registration with you, whether that's last year, this year, an event registration, a yearly registration, whatever. So anybody who's ever like been registered or entered into an event at your facility will show up in this left-hand tray. It's unique to class, right? So my class is sprint cars. So my stock car guys aren't going to show up here because I'm filtered to the sprint cars. But this is everybody who's ever raced with me before. I can filter this list by car numbers. If I type in 23, 23 show up, so on and so forth. You can filter this list also by pre-entries. The other 3 I'm really not going to dig into. They don't get used a ton. But pre-entries, if you have an event-specific registration tied to this event, the pre-entries filter will show just those registered drivers. Otherwise, competitors shows kind of what I described before. Second way to find a driver is the scan barcode option. We have a couple of ways where a driver can actually have a barcode that links directly to their driver profile, and then you can scan it at the back gate. The first way is through an MRP card. We call them hard cards. It's just My Race Pass logo on the front, barcode on the back. You can scan that barcode, and the driver information shows up. Second way to do that is actually in the app. So in the My Race Pass app, you can, if I'm a driver and I've claimed my profile, I can go in here and I can find my hard card and my MRP card right inside the app. I've got 3 driver profiles that I'm an admin for. So if my little brother is racing 305s with you, there we go. There's the barcode. So the advantage for doing this is oftentimes it can be difficult to find drivers in the entry list through the search. Or, you know, you might have 2 guys with the same name. I've seen that a lot. You have to figure out which one is which, whatever. This is basically a surefire way to make sure you're getting the right driver in the entry list. If you've got a barcode scanner, you can just scan the barcode. This is the only barcode left in my race pass, by the way. Everything else has gone to QR codes except for this. This is still barcodes. The other advantage to doing it this way is that when a driver registers with WISSOTA to receive a WISSOTA license, Cali assigns them a driver profile and a card. And so that card will always be linked to the WISSOTA licensed driver profile in my race pass. So easy way to make sure you're not accidentally putting in a duplicate or making mistakes or something like that. Just, you know, scan their driver card. Third way to find a driver is the search at the top of the screen. So again, we've got the competitors tray. We've got the barcode option right next to that is search. Search is just a string of text. So as I start typing in a name, search results appear based off of what I've typed. There is a create new option here. Create new is reserved for somebody who does not have a profile. And again, every driver who's ever raced at any track that uses my race pass, or any driver who has ever filled in any registration in my race pass, whether that's with your track, a different track, a series, or with WISSOTA, the sanctioning body, will already have a driver profile. So create new is going to be pretty rarely used, right? There's not a lot of people out there doing this for the first time, you know, every year. And oftentimes the people that are out there doing this for the first time are the people who are like excited to come into the computer and fill in their profile and do all that stuff. So there's not a lot of create new that has to happen. And I mean, quite frankly, with the number of go-kart tracks that we've got on my race pass anymore the last 2 years, especially in the upper Midwest, like almost every go-kart track in Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota, there's a few in North Dakota, there's a bunch in Wisconsin. Like most people race go-karts before they race big cars, and we've got almost all the go-kart tracks in too. So honestly, all that driver profile creation is going to happen at that level with those young kids, is what we usually find. So you can create new, but the long story short, it shouldn't happen all that often. So if I click on my own name here, this is the screen that comes up. Whether you scan their barcode, click their name out of the competitors tray, or click their name out of the search, this is the screen that shows up. There's really 5 things that you'll pay attention to in this screen to enter a driver. And actually, I'm going to do this a little bit different so you can see what it looks like with the WISSOTA stuff as well. So let's just say 2026, your favorite track registration. I know I didn't fill that out yet. Go back to entries and type in my name again. So 5 things that you'll look at. 1, pill number. I have it set to auto draw. It drew me a 49. If you have it set to manual entry, you'll type something in here. If you have it set to draw after you enter the driver, you'll get through this process with this left blank, and then it'll bring up a window to do the pill draw. If you have it set to pill draw before you find a driver, you'll click a draw button before this, and then the pill number will come up, and then you can enter the driver. Then you go find the driver. So a couple different ways to handle it, but that's number 1, right? The pill draw. Item number 2, car number, is what it sounds like. Number on the side of the car. The program will not allow the same car number to be in the same class twice. So if you've got a late model dude that shows up and says, I'm number 55, and then you got a second late model guy, right, same class, that shows up later and says they're number 55, you'll have to put like an X or an initial behind that second one. For whatever reason, I still get asked this question all the time. Does it accept special characters? Yes. I think it shouldn't. I think you should tell those drivers they're not allowed to have special characters, but the program will accept them if you still allow $ signs and stars and exclamation points. I've seen an @ sign. Somebody literally made their Twitter handle their car number one time at an event that I was at. It was an @ sign. I mean, choose your own adventure a little bit here. So pill number 1, car number 2. Third thing is owner information. Owner information comes up in 2 circumstances. One is rare, one is common. The rare one is owner points. Not very many people do owner points anymore. If you do, great. Every single driver that goes in the entry list has to have a car owner listed because every single car owner gathers points. You know what I mean? So every owner has to be in there. Every driver has to have an owner. The more common reason to use the car owner field is if someone other than the driver is getting paid. So the way I handle this at the back gate is I'm not asking them, okay, what's your car number? Okay, what's the car owner? I'm asking them, what name goes on the check? And if they say their own name, great. Don't put in a car owner, everything's fine. if they say anything other than their own name, whether that's a driver LLC or somebody else's name or a business name, whatever that is, whatever name goes on the check is what needs to be in this owner field. Because if you're using My Race Pass to track your financials or even print checks at the end of the night, then the payout data that accumulates all season long that you can eventually use to fill in your 1099 reports at the end of the year, well, if it's all linked to the same owner all year long, then it's looked like that owner has accumulated all that money. So as long as it's more than $600, the payee is correct at the end of the year. Where if it's some nights it's under the driver and some nights it's under the owner, now maybe at the end of the year you have to go, oh crap, one guy was supposed to get all this money and they didn't. What did I do wrong? It probably starts here. So that's 1, 2, and 3. The fourth thing that we need to put somebody into the entry list is this transponder number, which again, obvious, right? Number on the front of the transponder. If you click in this box, it will bring you to a list of their most recently used transponders. So if your drivers are anything like the drivers that I've worked with, they walk up to the window and I say, do you have your transponder? And they say, oh, it's on the car. Okay. Do you know what the number? No, I don't know the number. Okay. Is it the same transponder that you used last night in Hartford? Yes, we're good. Okay. So that helps a lot in terms of finding their transponder. If they're renting from you, mark the transponder rented box. If it's their own, mark the default box so it shows up automatically, just like mine did here. You can mark the default box for car owner. You can mark the default box for car number. So you can see if you use your defaults correctly, this goes pretty smoothly here, right? Everything after night number 1. The last thing that we need to put somebody into the entry list comes from WISSOTA, and it shows up much like this red error at the top of the screen. This entrant does not have a confirmed membership. That means that they don't have a WISSOTA license. And if they don't have a WISSOTA license, there are 2 check boxes that you'll have to worry about. You can either allow entry without confirmed membership, or you can say that they purchased a temporary license. Please be accurate in selecting this. This goes into reporting tools for Callie that she audits to keep the drivers, doing what they're supposed to do, and to make sure that you guys know what's going on at the back gate at your respective racetracks. If they do have a license, this won't show up. You won't worry about these check boxes. This only happens if they don't have a license. But please, if they do not have a license, pay close attention to the checkbox that you're selecting. So those are the 5 things, right? PIL, car number, owner, if it applies, transponder number, and then the license checks. You get those 5 things correct, and it's possible you only have to worry about 3 of the 5, right? Because a lot of people don't have an owner. A lot of people already have a license. But you get those 5 things correct, you can add them to the entry list. Everything's good, right? So I'm going to say purchase a temp license and add. Now I'm going to remove that license check because I want the rest of my entries to go way faster. You can edit any driver that you put in the entry list, right? Edit the entry. All that stuff is there, whatever else. You can, if you have a situation where the driver's name is spelled wrong or their hometown is wrong, there's an edit name city out of the edit column here. This will not change it on race night. They'll have to survive with it wrong on race night. This sends an approval request to us. Now, a lot of times Brad Hockaday was working overnight on race night, so he could make a liar out of me and it could change on race night. But in effect, it sends an approval request to us to review and change. The reason for that is we don't want somebody saying, oh, I had the wrong driver in the entry list. They go to edit name city and now they've changed one person's name to a completely different person's name. We want to avoid that, right? It goes through an approval process for us for that reason. You can edit the owner information. You can edit all that stuff here. You can also print them a new MRP card if you need to. That should be pretty rare, right? Because if somebody says, I lost my card, I need a new one, you should tell them, log into the app, and it'll be there. But you have the option to assign one here.
Those are only done at WISSOTA level.
Okay, never mind on the last thing. All right. Let me enter 9 other people into my entry list, and somebody has gone in and messed with the default transponders on my fake drivers. So this is going to take longer than it should, but that's all right. 121 003. I'm going to blame Dakota because he's not here. 1004. What else do I have? 78, so 009 and 1010. There we go. All right, so I got 10 drivers. We're going to run a 10-car race, all this kind of stuff. Now, the format that I will show you will revolve around the WISSOTA points format. That's what we're going to talk about exclusively in this particular training session. If you guys are doing a special format at the end of the year, great. That's fine. Please get a hold of us. Let us review it. Make sure that we're leading you towards the correct lineup options if you feel unsafe or unsure about what you're picking, whether that's double heats or you're doing qualifying or whatever it is. We want to help, but I also don't want to sort through every format that we've got in this session. I want to, make sure that we get the WISSOTA format talked about here. So I'm going to go to the races tab. This is where I'm going to start setting my format for the night. You can do one of two things. You can either copy from a previous race that you've done. Like if every week you do 4 heats and a feature, great. Pick 4 heats and a feature, everything's fine. Or you can add from scratch, which I'll do here, so you can see that. For this particular example, I'm just going to do a heat race and an 8 feature. You can set the number of laps here. I'll go 10 and 20. That will transfer to your timing system, so be aware of that. You can set how many cars go to tech. That'll show in the app and in your lineup monitor. All that stuff is there. So go ahead and add that. Once you've got your races added, you can do a couple of different things here. You can change the name of your race. So if you're running qualifying and you have to call it time trials instead, change it here. If you have a B feature, you want to call it a last chance showdown, change it here. That kind of stuff. You can do that here. You can also add a sponsor to your race titles. So, Bob's Garage, Heat 1, My Race Pass, Hot Laps, whatever. All the different sponsor things that are out there. Those will. I'm sorry.
If you have some sponsors and stuff like that, this is absolutely where you rather sell this for rather than a class. Instead of the Bob's Towing WISSOTA Midwest Mods, put the sponsor in as your Heat 1 sponsor. Sell a Heat 1 sponsor rather than a class sponsor. It makes it a lot cleaner.
I mean, yeah, still, if you got class sponsors, I'm not going to tell you not to make money. We just worry about these class names getting super long in the program, so people can't actually read what's on the track. They just see like H&H Mobile Home. You start putting that as a class sponsor, all of a sudden you have no idea what class is on the track because all you can read is H&H Mobile, and then it cuts off. So that's kind of where that comes from.
If you do have a class sponsor, I would prefer that you do the WISSOTA Midwest Modified, H&H, whatever. So
Yep, all that kind of stuff. Yes. The other things on the screen, so you get your change your name, add the sponsor. Again, I can edit the laps or how many go to tech. The most important thing here is your race configuration. You have to tell the program how many cars transfer from one race type to the next. So for one heat, one feature with 10 cars, this is going to be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to transfer them all to the A feature. If you had enough cars, you could take your top 5 from each heat to the A, the next all to the B. We can do that through like Z mains because of Chili Bowl at this point, because of Tulsa Shootout. So we know it works beyond ABC. So if you think you're going to have a ton of cars, I promise this works. You can also change on a per race basis, the drivers per row. Qualifying and hot laps will always default to 1. Everything else will always default to 2. If you feel like you want to start 3 wide, change that to a 3. You're all set. I don't recommend that a whole lot, but that's me. Yeah, so that's the races tab. Again, everything in here that you set will be available on the lineup monitor screen that I'll show you, and then also in the app. So if, your race is 10 laps, you put a 10 in here, it's going to show 10 laps in the app, live timing screen and lineup screen. So next option is the lineups tab. Lineups is again, just is what it sounds like, right? I can filter by class and by race type up here. But as I said, we're going to follow the WISSOTA stuff. And I'm just going to make sure that I've got the right one selected here. I do. Cool. The only time that there's a wrong one is for the features. So we got heats for WISSOTA, right? You can either do heat from pill draw or WISSOTA heat. The WISSOTA heat follows the points format that is in the WISSOTA rulebook. We changed it last year in the features, but the heat race has been the same for a very long time at this point. So I'll check WISSOTA heat and I'll calculate, and there's my lineup, WISSOTA heat lineup. If I want to check how was this calculated, that's a report at the top of the screen that will show you basically what is going on here. WISSOTA heat lineup is just pill draw, isn't it, Callie?
Yes, in
Okay.
WISSOTA rules, it is required that you draw for your heat races.
Yep. Okay, yeah.
So
WISSOTA
you
heat
can
is
do
just a
an
carbon
ent-
copy of pill draw. Perfect.
If you want to check it, you can do an entry list report. However, from lowest to highest, and you can see then, even if you do a rebase pill and say it is 77, you draw a line at 77 and do that. I do check my lineups once in a while just to make sure I got everything in okay.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, that how is this calculated report is going to do the same thing, right? It's going to order them in the order of the pill draw. Awesome. So once we have it to this point, the question is typically, okay, now how do I take this and get this into my timing system? There are two commonly used timing systems. One's called Orbits. It's from a company called MyLapse. MyLapse and MyRacePass are not the same thing. MyLapse is based in the Netherlands. We're based in Nebraska, different companies. But MyLapse builds a program called Orbits. Orbits is a timing system that many circle tracks around the country use. The second timing system that's out there is called Race Manager. It's by a company called Westhold. If you don't know which one you have, I almost guarantee it's one of the two. And just, look at the icon that you click on when you open it. It's either going to be a yellow and black checkerboard or it's going to be a red speedometer looking figurine, right? So that's how you can tell the difference if you don't know which one you've got. They are very different in terms of the way they look. I will do what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back and forth here in this training. I'm going to connect my heat race to Race Manager as though I'm using Race Manager to train or to time. And then in the feature, I'll switch everything over to Orbits, and then I'll connect to Orbits so you Race Manager users can see what you're doing in the heat race. You Orbits users can see what you're doing in the feature. So I'll open up Race Manager here. So if you're using Race Manager, pay attention now. The way we connect the two, regardless of timing system that you're using, and I got to delete the last race I did in Race Manager, so give me half a second. The way that we do that is through a program called MRP Live. So I'm going to come back to this MRP Live tab and basically show you what this looks like, right? There is a download application link here. I would have you download and install MRP Live on the same machine that your timing system is running on, right? So if that's Race Manager, if it's Orbits, whatever, the same machine up in the tower. This is MRP Live. This is what it looks like. You're going to find that connecting the two programs is very simple. You need three things. You need an IP address and a port number, and then you need a connection code. So if I go to Race Manager, there is in the Setup tab an IP address. It's listed here. Like there's no other IP address listed. Simple stuff there. Copy and paste it here. There's a port number also. It's 50,000. It's always 50,000. This is a little confusing because there's two ports listed. Use the one that says 50,000. It's always 50,000. So IP address and port comes from Race Manager. Simple stuff there, right? And if you're using the same computer and the same internet connection every week, that'll probably never change. The only thing that you'll worry about changing on a week-to-week basis, so when you start to get into the swing of things, this is literally going to be your process when you open up MRP Live, is every event in my race pass generates its own specific and unique connection code. So every connection code lives in this MRP Live tab. I'm going to copy the connection code. I'm going to paste it in the box, and I'm going to connect. That's the process. Oftentimes, people just click the Launch from Web button. That will just open MRP Live with this connection code built in. I still copy and paste. Everybody can do things the way they want. But when you connect MRP Live, this is what lets live timing work in the app. So just because this is connected now I can get live timing up in the app, okay? But in terms of getting my entries and lineups into Race Manager, I'm going to press this Get Lineups button. That's going to push all my class data into Race Manager, okay? It's not one class at a time. You don't have to do this a bunch. You're doing this one time, and all the class data is there. So now when I open up Race Manager, this was a blank event a couple seconds ago. I only have one class added to this event, but you might have 5 or 6 or whatever, and it'll bring all of them at once. So now I've got a competitors list for each individual class, and all classes competitors list. You can turn this one on or off. A lot of places they'll hot lap with different classes on the track at the same time. So that's why I have that one turned on. And then there's also every lineup that you've got created, which is for us is just heat 1. So all the data is right there. So your process is literally just going to be copy and paste the connection code, press connect, calculate your lineups, press get lineups. We're ready to score the race. Before we score the race, there's a tool that I was going to show you that I forgot to. When you calculate your lineups, if you've got an area centrally located at your facility, or you've got some kind of board that you staple paper lineups to, or that you, you know, I don't know, write them on a whiteboard or whatever, if you're paying someone to do that, we have what's called a lineup monitor. This screen will auto refresh every 30 or so seconds, and it'll display lineups. So basically what that means is that if you connect this to the internet and to a TV and you have lineups going all night, you can set that TV up or that laptop screen up or whatever you want to do, and then not look at it again until it's time to take it down at the end of the night. So whoever you're paying to write the lineups on a whiteboard, pay them to do something useful. Okay. So there's that. So now that I've got lineups in Race Manager, I'm going to score Heat 1 here. Nothing in Race Manager, how you use it will change. It's still green, yellow, red, checkered. If you have questions about how to do this, please give Scott or Julian a call from Race Manager. They're awesome dudes. They will help you out. They have another guy too whose name escapes me right now. But that's running. While that's running, I'll show you one other tool that we've got. I don't know why I switched tabs. Under the MRP Live dropdown, there is a lap viewer screen. And this is just the live timing view in the desktop instead of in the app. It's the same thing that's in the app. I bring this up because this is great information to have in front of your announcer, right? You can see the running order. You can see the best lap view. You can see the average lap time view. You can see the lap leaders view. When you're running a race that's not in demo mode like I am right now, you can also see a positions gained view, so a plus minus. The average lap time shows the average over the last 3 laps, so your announcer can look at this and say, yes, the guy in front is winning, but over the last 3 laps, second is 0.2 faster or whatever. The point of that is that the more information your announcer has at his disposal, the better he sounds on the broadcast, and the better he sounds on the broadcast, the more engaged your fan base is in what they're watching. Please give your announcer information. So I'm going to checkered flag this, and I'm going to stop the race and save, and there we go. So now that that's done, when I come back to the results tab of my race pass, this is the other thing MRP Live does, is it syncs the results basically in one click. Now, if you need to, you can still manually fill in the results on the left. I can click the driver's name in the order that they finish, but I can also just click the pending upload at the top of the screen and save as completed, and there we go. All the information's there. Couple of things on this screen. Once you've got results saved, you can still manually manipulate this. So if the guy who finished 10th in the result upload actually finished 5th, but his transponder fell off halfway through the race, I can still drag and drop him up to 5th. If in 15 minutes your tech guy radios up and says, hey, second place was light at the scales, he was DQ'd, I can still come back here. I can check the DQ box and I can save as completed. So this is where you mark your DNF, your DNS, your DQ, and your black flags. NPP stands for no passing points. If you're running a passing points format, get a hold of us and we'll explain that one as well. But otherwise, all the stuff is right here for you. The other thing on this screen that matters is the race notes section. If you have a DQ, it is required of you to put name, car number, and reason for DQ in this box, right? Because this gets audited by the sanctioning body so that they can deem whatever discipline is necessary or track or record or whatever. They have to know what happened. It can't just be, oh, there was a DQ, why? So this is for sanctioning body purposes, name, car number, reason for DQ. Did I get all that right, Callie?
That is absolutely correct.
Perfect. All right, good deal. So heat race is done, right? What comes after heat race? Well, feature does. So when I go back to lineups, I can use, again, the calculate lineups tool. And there are, just use the WISSOTA A feature one. The point average one's out the window. WISSOTA A feature lineup, calculate. There are my auto redraws that come up from this. I can either do that one at a time, I can do it all at once, or I can manually fill this in if they're drawing Frisbees on the front stretch or whatever. Either way, there's my redraw. Boom. We're good. There's my lineup. Okay. It's available in the app. Everybody can see it. The redraw happened automatically. You can see how that happened. This is WISSOTA Rules A feature for their shows, for their weekly shows. Beyond that, I guess the lineup monitor, you can see because I saved the heat race as completed, it's gone. And because I calculated an A feature, it's here. So you can see how that auto updates throughout the course of the evening. Now, the fun part. Can I successfully close Race Manager, disconnect MRP Live, and then open Orbits and reconnect MRP Live with nothing going wrong? This is something that you'll never do because everybody only uses one timing system. So let's see if I can get it right here. So I'll try to open Orbits and try to get this to work. There's Orbits. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Registration, delete that race because we want to start from a blank slate, right? You're not managing a driver database here. So connecting Orbits and MRP Live, again, very similar process. It's IP and port. So under the distribution tab in Orbits, if you're an Orbits user, look for distribution. There's a scoreboard. The scoreboard feed is where your IP and port is going to be listed. You'll notice it's the same IP and port. I'm just going to check the Orbits box instead. Everything else is the same in terms of MRP Live. The connection code process is still the same. All y'all have to do is make sure you have an Orbit selected and go to a different place for your IP address. Everything else is the same. So I'll connect. Perfect. Now when I press Get Lineups, in Race Manager, the process is a little different. It's a direct sync. In Orbits, you have to import some stuff. Okay, so when I'm at the registration tab, instead of showing a competitor database, I'm just going to import groups and runs. It's called groups and runs because, again, Orbits, based out of the Netherlands, follows the naming conventions of road racing. So groups is the classes. So I'll open up the groups first. You should only have to do that once at the very beginning of the night, okay, because your class list won't change. Every time you create new lineups, and again, it'll bring in all classes at one time, you'll have to import the runs. So how that typically goes, same with Race Manager, I'll calculate all my heat races, and then I'll import that to Orbit, right? And then when the heat races are done, calculate all my features. When I've got all my features calculated, then I'll import that to Race Manager or Orbit. So let me open the runs. And there's my A feature ready to time. Like my heat race was already in the completed status, so it didn't come over. This is just, pending lineups is all this is. So it's really the same process, just a different interface to get there. I'll time this. Orbits has a sweet track simulator instead of just running a demo race. So we actually have to open this and get a sweet view of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the fake version. And we'll run a fake race on that. Live timing works the same way. Nothing else changes about the fan app process at all. Everything should work just fine there. Let them have 2 laps. And then we will be done with this. We're going to have lap traffic in 2 laps. Awesome. There we go. Stop. So when that's done, checkered flag and stop. The same process. That checkered flag and stop is the trigger that sends everything back to my race pass. So when I go to the results, again, I can manually put in the results, or you can see the upload at the top of the screen. 410 Sprints Winged, A Feature 1. Click on that one. There's my results. Everything else is exactly the same. I can drag and drop if needed. DNF, DNS, DQ, black flag, all that stuff if needed should be there.
In your race right now, Billy Bob got DQ'd for conduct.
Billy Bob, yep. He didn't include his last name of Thornton is what happened there. An acting joke. So if I DQ, save is completed. And then again, all we have to do is go into the race notes. 25. Billy Bob DQ'd for being a Nebraska fan. There we go. Save is completed. That would be bad conduct in my book, being a Nebraska fan.
There you go.
Yep. So yeah, you can see how that all works. All that stuff is there. And that's really a race night. I mean, we've gone through is that obviously it was a truncated version, but we calculate our heat race, we push it to our timing system, we bring the results back. And then you just do the same thing again. Calculate the feature, push it to your timing system, bring the results back. Pretty seamless process there. The last step in all of this is going to be the points and pay tab. Up in the settings wheel in the upper right, there are points and pay schemes that you can create or bring in global schemes. So we have a lot of schemes in this demo profile. We probably could delete some. One of them is the WISSOTA scheme. So if I control F and I go WISSOTA, I know it's in here, WISSOTA National Scheme. It says 2024. That's just because it's really the last time the rules were updated and we had to change this. We probably should just rename it just something generic. But that's the one that you want, right? The 2024 version, because that's the last time we changed the national scheme.
Isn't it a 2025 plus?
Oh, that's right. You're exactly right. Yeah, 2025 plus. So if you have the 2024 version, please change it out, because I almost made that mistake and I don't want you to make that mistake. WISSOTA National Scheme 2025 plus. That's the good one. Okay. And then payout schemes can be whatever you want them to be. If you add a new one, I'm just going to edit an old one. You're just literally setting for each position, and that can be positions for features, for heat races, for qualifying, for whatever you want it to be, a dash, whatever you're putting in here, per position payouts. If there's show up pay, how much was it for show up pay if you did start? How much was it for show up pay if you did not start? DNS. If you know anything like that, right? If you're full pay, no pay for DNFs, DQs, all that kind of stuff, you can set all that in your pay scheme. And then at the end of a race night, all you'll have to do when you add a points and pay group, you have to name it something. The name doesn't go anywhere other than right here. I don't know why it exists, but I always name it Group 1. And then you'll find the WISSOTA National Scheme 2025 and whatever pay scheme you want to use and add.
I want to make sure that they all know how because Billy Bob was DQ'd for conduct, it means that he did not receive any points for the whole event. He doesn't get his heat points and he doesn't get his feature points because he's a Nebraska fan. So right. I want to make sure they know how to uncheck that box, because that is a requirement.
Right. So I marked him as a DQ in the feature, but the WISSOTA scheme still allows him 20 points for showing up, and we don't want that to happen, right? So when I go and calculate my points, there is a points eligibility for points and payouts to remove him from being eligible to receive points or being eligible to receive pay, or obviously both if you uncheck both boxes. So if it's a conduct penalty specifically, we want to make sure that we uncheck these boxes: eligible for points, eligible for pay. Payout, I think, is still a little bit up to you, but points, obviously, there's no debate there. There are boxes at the bottom of the screen. If we're going to award points or pay to the next eligible competitor, I believe that that's not what we're going to do in this particular circumstance.
Correct.
So, yep. So this way, what we're doing now when we're not checking those boxes is it's like, I don't know, what do you get? Fifth place? If fifth place doesn't exist, right? That's all we're doing there. I guess if you're a DQ, you move them to the bottom anyway. So really this is irrelevant. But if we were to check those boxes, it would just move the sixth place guy up into fifth, if that makes sense. So we do not want to check these boxes, calculate points that way. Now, instead of the 20 he's got for show up, he's got a 0 because he's not eligible for points or pay. So that part of it's important. If you are doing owner points, I'll direct your attention to the top of this screen where there's points applies to, and it says either competitors, owners, or teams. So if you're doing owner points, check the owner box. Save, right? I'm not doing owner points, so I won't worry about that. Most of you will never worry about that. But if you are, there's that one extra step, okay? But within 30 minutes of you saving this screen, the points will be available on the MyRacePass app, on myracepass.com if you search your racetrack, and also if you have a website through us, on your website.
And they went to me.
And they go to Callie, correct. Yep. And the last step then is create payments. That pushes the payout data into our 1099 reporting tools, as well as brings you back to this payments tab of season management. What you can do here, and this is all on a per class basis, you'll do this for each class. You can print checks from this screen. So again, if I enter the starting check number, you want to make sure you have the right check format from the bank. We can go over that with you. How the printing order, whether it's name or running order or car number based, and then create. Boom. Now we can print our checks. Come right out of the printer just like that. All you'll have to do is print, sign, hand out. I also can print from this screen a report for drivers that I use for drivers signing for their checks, right? The amount, the check number, the payee. If the payee is a car owner, the driver's name is in parentheses. I just have them sign in the white space. Easier process for me. You can also print mailing labels if you mail out your checks. I don't know of very many people who do that anymore, but the mailing labels are still there. And then we changed this from a QuickBooks export to an accounting export. This is a new feature, and I don't know if Dakota covered this or not. We used to only be able to export to the desktop version of QuickBooks with this .iif file. We now have changed that, so you can also export a CSV. The reason for that is being uploaded into other accounting softwares or also the online version of QuickBooks. So now we can export to desktop or online or any accounting software that brings in a CSV, which is just an Excel sheet. So that's one update that we made to race management. You always ask me about these updates to race management, and then little stuff like this slips my brain. But this is an update that we've done. So, and then at that point, you can shut the lights off and go home. That was a pretty thorough look through our race management process. Entries, lineups, results, timing system, points, pay, all that kind of stuff. If you have questions on it, I will stick around probably until the top of the hour, another 10, 15 minutes here if needed. And then, yeah, if you have questions, you can stick around and ask them. You can sign up for an individual training with myself or Dakota, really anytime. Next week especially, we will be around all week. Yeah, that's really all I've got today. I appreciate the time, everybody. Callie, you've got something.
No, I was just going to say, if you do want some extra help, go do that. Otherwise, play around in the sandbox.
Yep. So, and I don't know if this was covered. If you want some extra help, we have a URL that's also new. It's mrp123.com. So at this screen, you can visit our help center where I have created far too many knowledge-based articles about everything in my race pass, from season management to race management to tickets to whatever else. There's a lot of stuff there. Visit our YouTube channel where you can hear more of my voice if you'd like, or sign up for an individual training. So sign up for training, and you basically just pick a time on the calendar. So promoters and scorers. Let's go to next week, Wednesday, 18th. You want to stop in at 1? Perfect. So pick out a time with me or Dakota to be able to go through any of this stuff. You can also email us directly from the screen, all that kind of stuff. So all of that's there and available for you, mrp123.com for the support stuff. I will stop the recording here. And like I said, I'll stick around and answer any questions you've got.